Okay, today's lesson is a review on linear functions, and the objective is to graph linear equations and write the equations of lines. Some vocabulary that you need to remember: slope. In a non-vertical line, the ratio of vertical change to the horizontal change between 2 points. And a linear function is a function whose graph is a straight line. An x-intercept is where the graph of a function crosses the x-axis. The y-intercept is where the graph of a function crosses the y-axis. An important point for you to remember: for 2 points, x sub 1 and y sub 1, and another point, x sub 2, y sub 2, on a non-vertical line, the slope can be found using this equation. The vertical change, which is your rise, over the horizontal change, which is the run, are y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And it tells us that x sub 2 minus x sub 1 cannot equal 0 because we're not allowed to divide by 0. So here are some problems where we have 2 points and we want to know the slope of the line that goes through those 2 points. So here's our first point and our second point, our first x and y, and the x and y of the second point. So we take 4 minus 7, which is y2 minus y1, divided by negative 2 minus a negative 3. This gives us a negative 3 over 1, or a slope of negative 3. Our second set of points, the first point is 3, 1, and the second point is negative 4, 1. So we have 1 minus 1 divided by negative 4 minus 3, which gives us 0 over a negative 7, or a slope of 0. In the third problem, we have the point 7, negative 3, and another point 7, 1. The slope is 1 minus a negative 3 over 7 minus 7. This gives us 4 over 0. Since we cannot divide by 0, this slope is undefined. So anytime you see a 0 in the denominator, you know that your slope is undefined. Okay, so here's your guide. You can pause the video and work these out, and then check to see if you got them correct. Our y's are 1 and 4, so we're going to have 1 minus 4 divided by 8 minus 5. This gives us a negative 3 over a positive 3. If we simplify that, we get a negative 1 for the slope. On the next problem, we have the point 2, 2, and the other point negative 2, negative 2. So we have negative 2 minus 2 divided by a negative 2 minus 2. A negative 2 minus 2 is a negative 4. Negative 2 minus 2 is a negative 4. Negative divided by negative is a positive, and any number divided by itself is 1. So our slope is a positive 1. Our last problem, we have negative 4 minus 3 divided by 9 minus 9, which will give us a negative 7 over 0. So we know that this slope is undefined because we cannot divide by 0. Okay, need to write this down. Remember stars, things that are important that you remember and understand. A positive slope is given by the equation y equals mx plus b, and the line rises as you go from the left to the right. Notice that the line is going up. This is what a positive slope would look like. A negative slope, as you go from the left to the right, notice that the line falls, and this would have a negative slope in the equation. A horizontal line is a line that goes straight east-west. There's no up or down to it, just straight across, and the equation would be y equals your y-intercept. A vertical line is a north-south line. It goes straight up and down. It doesn't move sideways at all. And the equation is x equals an x-intercept. And remember, the slope on this would be undefined. The slope for your horizontal line is 0. Okay, slope-intercept form is one way that we can write the equation of a line, and it's given by y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and the point 0b is the y-intercept. I don't really know what M and B mean, but I've used this to help people remember. M, if you think of move, it's the slope, and it tells you how to move between points. And B, begin, it's the y-intercept, and it tells you where to begin on the y-axis. So when you see slope in the letter M, think of how you're going to move. And when you see y-intercept in the letter B, think of where you're going to begin on the y-axis. On these problems, we want to write the equation in slope-intercept form, which means simply that we want to solve for y. So the problem we were given was 5x minus 4y equals 16. We start by subtracting 5x from both sides. That leaves us a negative 4y equals a negative 5x plus 16. Then to get this y by itself, we divide all of our terms by negative 4. A negative divided by negative is a positive, so we get a positive 5 over 4x. 16 divided by negative 4 would give us a negative 4. This is our slope. We've solved for y, and this is the number in front of x. So our slope is 5 over 4. Our y-intercept, or the b, is the number by itself, which is negative 4. And the y-intercept written as a point would be 0, negative 4. On our second problem, we have a negative 3/4 x plus 1/2 y equals a negative 1. We start by adding this term to both sides. Those will cancel. That leaves us a 1/2 y equals 3/4 x minus 1. Since this is division by 2, we're going to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of the 1/2. That would give us y equals 3/2 x minus 2. Since this is front of the x, this is our slope, 3/2. This is our b of negative 2, so our y-intercept is 0, negative 2. On your got it problems, you start by subtracting 3x from both sides. That leaves you this positive 2y equals a negative 3x plus 18 because this is a positive 18. Divide all of your terms by 2, and that will leave you y equals a negative 3 over 2x plus 9. So your slope is a negative 3 over 2, and your y-intercept would be the point 0, 9, because this is your b. On this one, we're going to add 7x to both sides. That will leave us this negative 5y equals 7x plus 35. Divide both sides by a negative 5. And that will leave you y equals a negative 7 over 5x minus 7. So your slope is a negative 7 over 5. Your y-intercept, since this is your b, will be the point 0, negative 7. In these problems, we're given different information, and it's asking us to write the equation of the line. So in the first problem, they tell us that the slope is 1/5, and they tell us that the y-intercept is 0, negative 3, and we want to write the equation using y equals mx plus b. So we're just going to substitute in the slope for m and the y-intercept for b. So in place of the m, we put 1/5. Remember, on the y-intercept, this is always our b, so in place of the b, we're going to put negative 3. So the equation for the line can be written as y equals 1/5 x plus a negative 3, or we could write it simply as 1/5 x minus 3. In this problem, we're given a graph, and from this graph we can see 2 points that are on the line, the point 0,4 and the point 1,1. Just as we did earlier in this video, we can subtract those to find the slope, so we have 4 minus 1 over 0 minus 1. I actually did it the other way. It doesn't matter which way you do it as long as you keep these lined up. So since I started with the 1, I have 1 minus 4. And since I started with this 1 for the y, I start with this 1 for the x, and I have 1 minus 0. So 1 minus 4 is a negative 3. 1 minus 0 is 1. So my slope is a negative 3. This is where my line crosses the y-axis, so my b is 4, and my equation is y equals a negative 3x plus 4. On your guided problems, they tell you the slope and they tell you the y-intercept, so you know what b is, you know what m is. You just plug those into your equation, y equals mx plus b. And there's your equation. On this one we have 3 points, so I can use any 2 of these points that I want to use to find the slope. So I'm going to take these 2 points since they're side by side. So my slope would be, my y is 0 minus a negative 2 divided by a negative 6 minus a negative 2. When I subtract a negative, that's the same as adding, so that would be 2 over a negative 6 plus 2 would be a negative 4. So my slope is a negative 1/2 when I simplify it. And this point is on my y-axis, so I already know what my b is. It's negative 3. So plugging those in, I have y equals mx plus b, which I can write as y equals a negative 1/2 x minus 3. Either one of these forms is okay when you're writing out your answers. And on our last slide, we have graphing a linear equation. And the first thing we need to do when we want to graph a linear equation is solve the equation for y. That will give us the equation in its slope-intercept form. So we know our slope, so we know how to move. And we know our y-intercept, so we know where to begin on the y-axis, which will make it easy to graph. And then once we have 2 points, we can just draw the line through the points. In this example, we have the equation negative 2x plus y equals 1. We add 2x to both sides, which leaves us y equals 2x plus 1. 2 is our slope, which is our m, which tells us that we're going to move up 2 and right 1. And we have our b, which tells us we're going to begin at 1 on the y-axis. So here we've already graphed it. We've started at 1 on the y-axis. From this point, we moved up 2 places and over 1 place to give us our next point. We now have 2 points, and we just draw the line through the 2 points. On the guided, we want to graph this one, so we're going to subtract 4x from both sides. Remember, this negative goes with this 7y, so we have left a negative 7y equals a negative 4x plus 14. To get y by itself, we want to divide both sides by, or divide all of our terms by a negative 7. That will give us y equals a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so this will become 4 over 7x. A positive divided by a negative is a negative, so that will become a negative 2. So our b is negative 2. So we would start at negative 2 on the y-axis, and then our slope is a positive 4 over 7, so that tells us from this point we're going to move up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to move to the right 7 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there's our next point. From where we started, we went up 4 and over 7, and now we draw the line through those 2 points.